alongside Tommy Krysan. Got my LSU baseball 2009 national championship hat, hoping that we got another run in us to bring this home for P Money, rocking the LSU T-shirt. I'm trying it all, Tommy. TK's joining us over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. We're going to please make sure you like and share this video as we're trying to make sure we get as many people on as possible. I'm doing that right now. On the show, of course, we're going to talk a ton about that LSU regional. The Tigers won 3 in a row, which is something I did not think they had in them. But the Tigers have now surprised everyone. They've now won 3 in a row and trying to make it 4 in a row. What a game it was. What a day it was for LSU baseball. They haven't won many 2 games in one day in the history of LSU baseball in the NCAA regionals in a while. It is a tough task. We'll get into that and a whole lot more. Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's Casino. We'll be back underway right after this.
The great story starts with the rush of thrilling gaming action. Flavors, eager please. Getaways for some well-deserved me time. And rewards worth bragging about. If it's a story worth telling, it starts at LeBear's Baton Rouge.
Every
What's
great
your story?
Starts with the rush of thrilling gaming action. Handcrafted flavors, eager to please. Getaways for some well-deserved me time. And rewards worth bragging about. If it's a story worth telling, it starts at LeBear's Baton Rouge. What's your story?
Tommy Krysan joining us today from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. TK, I got to tell you, LSU drops game 1 of the series to Gonzaga. I don't know that I ever thought that they'd have 3 in a row.
I was a little surprised, but when they got the bats going, they got a chance to be successful. And then, A.J. Lavis, Devon Coleman, wow. What a performance when you had to have it. I was on the phone yesterday morning with somebody who was talking about how Skip Bertman always had that pitcher in the postseason that showed up and did something remarkable. I said, well, they had 50 guys on the roster back then. It's a little bit different. But with all that being said, you got to tip your hat to them 2 guys for giving the team a chance to win, which is what you're supposed to do as a pitcher. And they, all the guys with the bats. Devin Cruz, he's hardly got out. Just unbelievable. And then Dugas with the inside the park home run. The official score at Oregon's got that wrong. Hopefully they'll change that today. But just what a performance. If the bats show up tonight, I think they got a great chance to win, even if they win 12-10. We've seen more home runs in the regionals than ever. Lots of runs being scored. People are running out of pitching. Ronnie, in college baseball, when the season starts, the pitching's usually ahead of the hitting. And then the hitting catches up. Well, you got it really catching up right now because there's so many good players with the extra year to COVID, the shrinking of the draft last year, be a little bit bigger this year. College baseball is on the upswing. Now, is it going to get like they back in the 90s when it was 24-14 in Omaha and they changed the bats because of all the home runs? I don't know if it'll get to that, but, I like a 1-0 game. I like a 3-1 game, but most people want to see what we've been seeing in the bulk of the baseball around the region. I watched so much baseball this weekend, scoreboard watching, flipping the app, flipping the TV. It was just a lot of fun.
I always say that the first weekend of the NCAA regionals in college baseball is my favorite, right? I rather that than the NCAA basketball tournament, and no question about it, it was that way. I love watching that squeeze play, they call it. It used to be bases loaded. Now it's squeeze play where they whip you around all the different games, almost like the NFL red zone. But you get a chance to go everywhere. A couple observations from the opening weekend that jumped out at me, TK. First off, LSU I don't know what they were doing on Friday against Gonzaga. I think Paul Maneri overthunk it, reinvented the wheel. When you go Sanford and Safford and, guys that hadn't played much, Safford's hitting 100. You hit Safford's 6-hole. If you're hitting 100, should be hitting 9-hole. Sanford's hitting 4-hole. That's a head scratcher. So it just was a cluster. They only had 3-4 hits in the game. It wasn't a great Marceau performance. It was just a cluster. The thing that impresses me is that they were able to, not being a veteran team, being a very young team, to kind of flush it and move on. Then they were in a dogfight for their life against Central Connecticut State. And I was kept thinking the whole time, Tommy, is this how Paul Maneri's career is going to end, against Central Connecticut State, a team that you and I couldn't find on a map where their school's located? So thank God they survived that, won that game in extra innings. But then on Sunday, tremendous job. A.J. Levis did about what A.J. Levis is capable of. Give up 4 runs, 5 runs. He did what he needed to do. The offense came along alive. Dugas, Cruz, Morgan, these guys have been incredible. How about Zach Arnold, the story where he signed with Oregon, changed to LSU. He's over there in the regional having a great series. So the offense finally got going, and A.J. Levis kept it right there. Let's get to the Oregon game last night. I knew Javen Coleman was going to pitch, thought he was going to start. Talk to me about Vittmeyer starting that game and what that was all about, in your opinion.
Well, he threw 1 inning at the end of the first game of the day. And, I'm sure, he's a strong kid. He's country strong. I mean, I'm sure Coach Maneri went to him and said, hey, can you give us an inning, 2 innings to start this next game? It surprised me. I thought maybe Helmers would go. You thought Coleman. But Vittmeyer goes. Then what surprised me is he pulled him out after an inning. Now, maybe he went to him and said, Coach, I don't have it. I gave it my best, whatever. So it was a little bit of a surprise. But, Javon Coleman came in and picked his teammates up, picked this whole team up. The bats were there. And, a lot of pressure on Oregon. Oregon was feeling it, I believe. They were pressing. They were taking a lot of pitches and, swinging at some bad pitches. And, I think LSU got the momentum in their dugout. They'll be the home team tonight. By the way, it's on ESPN2 if you haven't seen that announcement yet. 9 o'clock, just after 9 o'clock, first pitch here in Louisiana. But last night's game, man, just unbelievable. I mean, Gavin Dugas, Nolan Kay is trying to stop him. It should be a home run. The scorer gave him a triple, but he never slowed up in replays and everything else. But, they just got the job done. And, I want to go back to Friday. Paul Maneri, before he left for Oregon, said, we're going to go out there and let it rip. And then he outsmarted himself Friday with the lefty-righty thing. And, I think that affected the whole team. But when they looked at the lineup card, they're like, what is that? Ronnie, we've talked before. When you played ball, I played ball. I knew them 2 guys on the end of the bench that weren't getting in the game, no matter what the score was that day, no matter who we were playing. And I just think that affected the team. Coach Maneri tried to roll the dice, and it backfired. Now, I don't know if he'll ever admit that, but it really did. Because then he juggled the lineup a little bit, put Morgan down to third, put Cruz on the top, and it has worked out. Last night, if you didn't like that baseball game last night, something's wrong with you.
So you're talking about that Coach Maneri's gut didn't work out for him on Friday? Is that what you mean, TK?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It didn't.
He might have went to a Chinese buffet and got something that had been sitting on the line all day a little bit.
Should have went with the TK gut because I would have had Bianco and Sanford in the line. Hindsight's 20/20, but I said it when I sent you a picture of the lineup when it got posted. I'm like, we can't be really doing this in a regional. This is not Tuesday night against Nichols. Yeah. But again, we don't need to beat that up. The point is they overcame that. They overcame that first game loss, posted 2 wins yesterday in exciting fashion, and for the most part played good baseball. But, Ronnie, I was being a little critical of LSU on the phone with some friends Saturday, but I watched so much baseball. Shortstop at Florida State had a major brain lock, mental mistake that led to a physical mistake. I've seen other guys do things that you go, how can that happen at this level? So it's not just LSU. It's kids trying to play baseball and have fun. And I think the pressure's there. You got the squeeze play. You got all these people, watching all these games. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Stephen Miller says he needs to realize those gut feelings are indigestion and not a gut feeling anymore. He needs to have a little Tums. All right, here got a question from Craig Duncan asking who supposedly was on LSU's campus yesterday as a potential LSU baseball coach. I know Pat Casey was on LSU's campus on Thursday, the former Oregon State coach who won 3 national championships. He came in for an interview. That's an interesting guy that's in the mix. The most successful coach out there. No one else has won 3 national championships. That's a look at potentially in the running for the job. And a guy, but he's been out of coaching for 2 or 3 years. Not from this region. We talked to Dan Canterbury yesterday on Hold the Rope with Skip Bertman and on Saturday on Sports Shorts, and he said Oregon cannot be any more different from Louisiana. I mean, it's a different environment all the way around, and so would be interesting, but Casey would be a big name, so we'll have to see what happens there. The other names that have been thrown around, TK, didn't have good weekends. Schlossnagel's team at TCU got eliminated. They finished 3rd in their own regional. They are a number 6 national seed. They don't even advance out of their regional. Kevin O'Sullivan, whose name was the leader in the clubhouse a few weeks ago for the LSU job, goes 0-2 in the Gainesville regional, and they get beat 19-1 to Sunbelt School South Alabama, the worst loss in the history of the SEC in postseason. So, very interesting to say the least about Kevin O'Sullivan. So, those are 2 names we've been hearing a lot about: O'Sullivan, Schlossnagel. We know Pat Casey was in town. He's an assistant athletic director at Oregon State right now. And another name being thrown around as a potential is Mike Bianco. They're still alive, but they got to play Southern Miss in Game 7 of their series today. So who knows? There's no obvious choice in this situation for LSU.
The social media was ripping O'Sullivan to bits. Go to LSU, can't wait for you to leave, all that. The Florida Gator fans. I read a lot of that. Don't rule Schlossnagle out. That's just a little a wrong word to say here, but gut feeling by TK is don't rule Schlossnagle out. Pat Casey, 62 years old. That doesn't jive with me a whole lot. And like you said, he's not from this region. Tremendous amount of success, but can he bring kids to Baton Rouge and win baseball games? It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, and it'll take a back seat the rest of today because, have we seen who's starting tonight yet? Have you heard anything?
No. Matter of fact, I talked to some LSU people prior to this show this morning. They still have not made a decision on how they're going to handle their pitching tonight. They have not had a team breakfast yet. They will do that here, I believe, at 11 Central. But the bottom line is that they have not figured out what their pitching is going to be. It's going to be a committee situation, but they have not figured who will get the ball first. Let me go back to Vittmeyer for a minute because that really surprised me. I knew that they were going to Javen Coleman was going to have get the ball, but then they went with Vittmeyer on the bump. And here's what I suspect. Okay, Pulmonary loves the guy who comes to him and says, "Coach, put me in there. Put me in there, Coach. That guy that's been on the bench or hasn't played a major role and he's been waiting his turn. That second baseman that's in a battle with 3 other dudes and." He goes in that office and he says, "Coach, put me in there. I feel it. Like this is going to be my weekend." He likes that, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Vittmeyer, who's one of the leaders on the team, one of the vocal leaders on the team, a guy who's been there for 4 years, if he didn't go to him and say, "Coach, let me get us off to a good start. Give me the ball," because he had thrown the last inning in the previous game. That doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me is if you go with Vittmeyer to start the game, what's the rush to taking him out? Like what I don't understand is the guy threw 1 inning, struck out 2, gave up a double. Like, why's he got to come out of the game automatically? Like, why not let him keep going until he puts a runner on? What if Vittmeyer goes 3 innings before a guy reaches base again? You know what I mean? Like what's the rush? I would have liked to have seen him start the second. And hell, maybe he gets you to the 3rd, Tommy. Maybe he gets you to the 4th, and maybe you don't ever have to use Fontenot. And Fontenot could start today and go 4 or 5 innings right off the bat. So those are the things that just befuddle me. We didn't have, Pulmonary yesterday in the press conference said, hey, we wanted him to get us off to a good start. He got us through the first start. By the way, in the first inning, he faced mostly lefties. And in the second inning, Coleman comes in and faced mostly righties, and he's left-handed. So it worked out. It worked out. It just doesn't necessarily always I don't know the method to the madness, but the madness worked this time around. Javen Coleman grew up before our eyes, man. He reminds me a lot of Mike Sorotka, who pitched in the early 90s and was a great pitcher, one of the greatest ever to play at LSU. Skinny left-hander from Texas, a very similar motion if you were to look back and watch Mike Soroka videos. Throws harder than Soroka ever did, but Soroka has a better breaking ball, probably the best left-handed breaking ball ever at LSU. But Javen Coleman, if Javen Coleman gets taken out in the Ole Miss series, Tommy, in the 8th inning, if he gets taken out after a couple of batters reach base, and who knows what happens to that kid the rest of the season, because he was pitching really good over there in Ole Miss, and they just left him out there to dry and to hang, and he ended up, being one of the pitchers along with Helmers that gave up that 9-run lead or whatever. But Javen Coleman is going to be a dude next year for LSU.
You're right. He grew up right in front of everybody last night and himself. Back to Vetmeyer. Unless Vetmeyer went to Maneri and said, I can't go. Was Coleman up while Vetmeyer was throwing the first inning? I can't recall I didn't see on the video if he was throwing while Vetmeyer was pitching, if he was in the pen.
I would assume.
Okay. Maybe Vetmeyer said, hey, Coach, I gave you
Here's
that
the
one
problem,
inning.
Tommy. Here's the problem is that these broadcasts, these announcers are not at the game. Okay,
Dear
so Ben McDonald's
to NCAA, that's terrible.
Bill McDonald's sitting in his underwear in Denham Springs doing the game. The other guy's in another state somewhere, so they can't look down the line and see what's going on. It's often, it drives me crazy.
The NCAA has totally screwed that up. Put the guys in the ballpark. And then here's the other thing. Clay Madvik, I was wondering, is Palmineri retiring? I mean, he said that like every other batter the whole time LSU played. I ripped him on Twitter, like, please stop. 99% of the people watching this game know that Palmineri is retiring. You don't have to say it every other batter. That guy was terrible. Ben did a great job, but they should be in the park. If somebody else put it on Twitter, and Ronnie, you've announced many a game, and so have I. There's so many more things you can see in the park. Like you said, a guy being up in the bullpen, maybe a coach talking to a player in front of the dugout that's not on the TV shot. You see things when you're announcing a game, and you and I have done it so many times. You know certain things to look for and not look for. So the NCAA totally botched that. Those guys should be in the ballpark to announce that game. It's the NCAA tournament. I'm like you. Other than March Madness, is the biggest thing the NCAA does. And what a time to market college baseball in the NCAA, and then they cut corners and shortcut. That's just terrible.
I talked to Ben before the regional, and he said that the super regionals, they're expect that they will be at the sites.
They should be there now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if they could be at the sites and if they could be at the SEC tournament on location, they should be at these. But look, COVID's not the same everywhere. We're here down in the South in Louisiana. The SEC tournament was in Alabama. COVID situation's a lot different. Over there on the West Coast right now, they're at 50% capacity for this series. At the Oregon regional, at 50% capacity in the stands. When you go anywhere, walking around the stadium, when you go to the restaurants, the hotels, the grocery stores, everybody's still in a mask in Oregon. So they're still living in a different world than we are. So when you start sending guys all over the country, particularly California and Oregon and other, it's a different world when it comes to COVID. So I think when they get to the super regionals, it'll be a little more condensed. And they're supposedly they're supposed to send them to all the locations. That's what Ben McDonald's anticipating. Offensively, this Dylan Cruz in the leadoff spot. This is one of those decisions. Earlier in the year, Dylan Cruz started off in the leadoff spot for the first month or so of the season. He was on fire. He's in fuego. They decided to move him to the second, third spot in the order because they wanted to get more RBI out of him. Here's a guy hitting 350, 400. I get the reason. And then, by the way, Morgan can run. He's your lead base stealer. So whether Morgan's the leadoff or whether Cruz is the leadoff, to me, Tommy, it doesn't really matter. But Cruz said at the hotel to some people I know, he loves hitting in the leadoff spot because he gets to see more fastballs, which makes sense.
Well, and it puts a lot of pressure on another pitcher, especially when he's 10 for 16 out in Eugene. So whoever throws that first pitch to him tonight, I mean, that's pressure, okay? I like Morgan hitting second behind Cruz because then you're holding the base on and you got the big hole on the right side. However, Morgan's very good at hitting the ball the other way. He basically hits it where it's pitched. Now, I don't know if the other team is pitching it outside because there's a big hole on the right side. Maybe not. But I think you leave Cruz at the top. I'd put Morgan second. Yeah, he got picked off a couple times. That's not supposed to happen. But he's a young guy. You can't make that mistake. Does LSU have a base running coach, Ronnie? Help me out. I'm talking about for the whole year, not just this weekend. But they got to.
The worst part is, Tommy, about Morgan getting picked off is that I don't even think he was stealing for sure on one of them. One of them he definitely wasn't stealing on. The other maybe. So the fact that he got picked off is just pretty brutal.
Well, that's a freshman mistake in a regional.
He's not a freshman. He's not a freshman. The guy's played every single inning of every single game.
Okay, well then that makes it worse.
It does make it worse. It's terrible. By the way, Craig Duncan saying Vitt started because he only pitched one inning against Gonzaga, the last inning of their doubleheader game earlier, and he was still warmed, even though it was about an hour and a half delay. It was pretty much like a long rain delay. So he started Vitt in second game to steal an inning, and it worked. I thought it was a 100% great decision. I can understand, Craig, why he started him, and all that stuff you just said. I don't understand why he took him out. That's the part I'm talking about. If you're going to not go with Javen Coleman because you want to go with the steal an inning and he's hot and he's a veteran and sneak one by you, which, all right, I can get on board that. Why did you just take him out? That's what I don't see. He might have given you another 2 innings, before he needed to come out of the game, and then who knows? He might not have – Coleman might have been able to finish. That's the only thing that I think about it. But, hey, worked out. But, again, saving an inning on Coleman, but you didn't save an inning on Fontenot, and that's what we're getting to, is that you'd love to have an extra Fontenot not have to throw that extra inning. By the way, how about the batter for Oregon at the end there? He swings at that 3-1 ball 4 and swings at a 3-2 ball 4 to end the game. Coach, when you're a guy at the plate, Tommy, and you represent the tying run and the count is 3 balls and 1 strike, and you have 1 homer in the year,
you don't swing,
and you got a guy that's struggling to throw strikes. I mean,
you take.
I'm telling you right now, Tommy,
I'll tell you what I'd have done if I was coaching. I'd have had him square around like he was going to bunt, shock everybody in the park, pull the bat back, see if the pitcher could throw a strike.
If I was a baseball coach in college baseball, I would be the most unliked baseball coach by my team of all time because I love the take. The take is the greatest weapon in college baseball. I mean, it just is. And here we are, here we are with guys not getting not taken because coaches don't want to give them the take because they don't want to hurt their feelings. I just don't understand it. The take is the greatest weapon in college baseball because you can see by his statistics and you can see by the naked eye when a guy is going to have trouble throwing 3 strikes before he throws 4 balls. But hey, thank God it worked out for, we love that, LSU fans, we love it. Oregon's batter swung at a ball 4 twice and it got Fontenot out of the game because God knows what would have happened. He, walks some bases loaded, but it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable how guys don't take.
Well, I agree with you, and I know when I coached travel ball, 3-0 count, I'd yell out, take one, because I want the pitcher to hear that with my deep voice, because I think it put pressure on the pitcher if he knows the batter's taking to lay one in there. Now twice I would say that, and the guy really had the green light if I had the right hitter up, but, that's just, being smart. But, no, I agree with you, and I mean, we've seen – and again, this is not unique to LSU and Oregon. I watched a lot of baseball Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I've seen other teams and players do things where I just go, really? It's like the Florida State shortstop. The kid from Ole Miss with the torn ACL was batting. Hit a ground ball, 2 hops right to the shortstop, and he hurries up to throw and throws it in row 2. Guy's got a torn ACL. You can underhand it to first. 2-run score. It really cost Florida State the game, by a mental mistake, which led to a physical mistake. But, hey, it's a lot of runs, a lot of home runs, balls flying out of parks everywhere. And Harry's right. How to win. You got to have that awareness of how to win. Great point by Harry. By the way, I wanted to say something to Harry since he's watching. I've never noticed this before, but in the last out of the 93 championship, he kind of pimped that fly ball.
Big time. Yeah.
Oh, I saw that in the Hold the Rope show.
You never seen that before?
I'm sure I saw it, but when I saw the replay, I went, come on, Harry, I love it.
It was the ultimate pimp job.
Oh, he peacocked it big time.
Yeah, big time. That's because he played right field behind Lyle Mouton his freshman year, so he saw Lyle pimping all those balls and stuff.
That was beautiful. If people hadn't seen it, Go back and look at it. He pimps that final out in the '93 World Series. It's amazing.
Yeah. All right. So quick takeaway on what else happened around the world of sports this weekend as far as college baseball is concerned. Biggest takeaway outside of the LSU regional in your mind?
I guess it was all the home runs and a lot of upsets and so just runs everywhere. 21-0 and 19-1 and 14-11 and it just was crazy. Games taking 4.5 hours. That was my takeaway. But I'm like you. I just loved watching baseball and saw a lot of really good baseball. A friend of mine's son, Hunter Stanley, had a pretty good outing for Southern Miss. It got away from him at the end, but he did really well for 5-6 innings. I was pulling for him and texting his dad during the game. And a good friend of mine that's an umpire was in the Lubbock Regional working, and texted him because he kept being on the TV replay review thing. But, so no, it was just a lot of fun. I'm going to watch some more baseball today. And, of course, 9 o'clock tonight, ESPN 2. LSU's plus $1.60 against Oregon.
Wow.
Plus $1.60 if you want to make some money out.
By the way, they were plus
$1.70
yesterday.
If the bats come out, LSU's going to win. But we've seen that bats go hot and cold. We've seen them show up and get 4 hits.
Yeah.
If they hit the ball, I don't care what the pitching does. I don't care if you got to win 14-12 or 10-9. If they hit the ball, they're going to win the game, and they'll head to Knoxville because Tennessee's already punched their ticket.
Tennessee, by the way, what a great atmosphere that thing has turned into. That wasn't always the case. But my biggest takeaway from this weekend is there are a lot of dudes that throw 95 or harder. I mean, it's unbelievable, man. I mean, the training and everything that goes into it, Tommy, the training and the mechanics and the video work and just the Roger Bannister bar setting it high and knowing you got to throw 90 plus to be amazing. It's just incredible how guys throw 95 plus nowadays all over the place. How about Old Dominion? What an athletic year for them. They're playing for a championship today against Virginia in Game 7 of that regional over in South Carolina. The softball teams won a couple games over in the College World Series. I mean, unbelievable. Old Dominion, what they're doing is absolutely incredible. But outside of that, I mean, the shocker is Florida, right? I mean, Florida losing 0-2 at home in a regional and getting beat 19-1. This is a Florida Gator team that was preseason number 1 or number 2 in every poll. Number 1 or number 2. They would hang Paul Mainieri by his toenails if LSU was number 1 or number 2 in the country to start the season, and then limped into the postseason, not as a national seed, host a regional, and go 0-2 and get beat 19-1, the worst defeat in the history of the SEC. But yet everybody's still talking about O'Sullivan replacing Paul. Just do your due diligence. Just make sure whoever you hire is the best. But the point is that Paul Mainieri never had anything like that. They were never preseason number 1, number 2 in the country, went 0-2 in a regional and got beat 19-1. I mean, and with a bunch of dudes, by the way. They got dudes that aren't, a bunch of dudes over there that can throw it. So that's the biggest surprise to me, TK.
I'm gonna agree with you on that, and we'll see what happens if O'Sullivan stays there or not. Do want to mention this, Ronnie? Southern Jaguars 2-Q. It did okay and hung in there in their second game. McNeese had a few good moments, but it didn't work. How about Louisiana Tech? Coach Burrows happened at the stadium, was packed yesterday. They got beat, but he really thinks this is a stepping stone for that program now that they got the new ballpark and hosted the Conference USA tournament. He really thinks big things are in the future for Louisiana Tech, and I got to agree with him. But, the story from Louisiana is LSU. I agree with you. O'Sullivan's a big surprise of what happened there. Maybe TCU losing out at home as well. Notre Dame, scored 50 runs in 3 games. I don't like Notre Dame, but 50 runs in 3 games is a lot of runs. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be a fun day today as all the super regional pairs are going to be set. And again, LSU tonight, if they win, they get to go to Knoxville where they got swept about a month ago.
Yeah, but 2 of those games were in extra innings and they blew leads. And so I know the players want to go to Knoxville to avenge that series. They may get their wish. They just have to win 4 in a row, going for number 4. By the way, Harry Barrios, former teammate of mine, as you mentioned, that catch comes in. He says he told Beetle Bailey, the assistant coach who worked with the outfielders that year, before that last inning when LSU had the 8-0 lead with Laxton on the mound in 93, he was going to do the anti-drift drill if the last out was hit to me, which is catch the ball between the legs. He said he thought about it for a second, but decided to just go with the side pimp right there. That would have been unbelievable if he'd have done the drill and caught the ball between his legs. Could you imagine? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, I would still be laughing.
Oh, that would be the best ever. They would show that every year. It was a highlight. All right, he's Tommy Krysan over at Tremonti's. Tell us about Tremonti's Meat and Seafood.
Well, they got 3 big catering orders rolling out the door today. If you want to help feed everybody at your office or your place of work or whatever it might be, call Tremonti's or stop by. They got pulled pork going out today, fried fish, chicken fried steak for lunch special, Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, the Chairman's Reserve meats, the wine selection, the whiskey. Another big order rolling out as I speak. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. You got to check them out. Follow them on Facebook or Instagram. You'll be able to keep up with everything that they're doing. And then tomorrow we'll be over at Port Allen at Court Street Cafe. We'll recap what happens tonight. Look for us about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, or stop by Court Street Cafe on Court Street in Port Allen. I'll get out there about 9:15 tomorrow.
LSU plus $1.60 means you bet $100 on LSU, you win $160. Yet last night, if you'd have bet $1 on $100 on LSU, you'd have won $170. So Tigers in a rare underdog situation in postseason baseball.
They're the home team. Remember that. They're the home team. That's important.
Yeah. Home team. And look, both teams somewhat out of pitching. LSU going to go with Joe Staff. I would imagine you're going to see Fontenot again. He can come back. He threw 2 innings yesterday. He can come back. I imagine you'll see Edwards. I imagine you'll see you could probably go with Will Marceau make an attempt to come back. That's going to be interesting.
I was going to ask you, if you need 1 out or 2 outs to win the game, okay, keep in mind you're the home team, so you're going to get another bat. So would you, I know he doesn't want to hurt Marceau's arm. A lot of money coming in the draft for him, but if you got to get 1 or 2 outs, maybe not. That's why Coach Maneri gets the $1.2 million, I guess.
Listen, I did the Southland Conference Championship game last Saturday, and Hammond. It was McNeese against Sam Houston. McNeese's starting pitcher went on 2 days rest. Sam Houston's starting pitcher went on 1 day's rest, and wow. Sam Houston's starting pitcher threw a complete game. So hey, look, this is win or go home. As far as I'm trying to look real quick to say, Landon Marceau, I would imagine he's going to want to pitch some. Garrett Edwards can be available. Devin Fontenot can be available. Trent Ventmeyer can be available. The guy threw 2 innings yesterday.
No, he did you ever do that, Ronnie? Did you ever throw twice in a day?
Yes. Yeah. And like travel ball.
College.
Not in college.
I did it in college. I threw a complete game, 7-inning game against McNeese one day, the opening game of a doubleheader. Only threw like 80 pitches. And then the second game was in like the 14th inning, and the coach said, "Hey, can you give me an inning?" I said, "Let me go take a few tosses." I did, and I went out there and threw 1 inning, which was like 3 hours later than I had thrown the complete game. So that was the only time I ever did it. That's because, only because it went 14 innings in the second game, and we were out of pitching.
Ty Floyd didn't pitch yesterday. Look for him. Jacob Hasty is a fresh arm available. Michael Fowler hasn't thrown much, but when he can give you an inning or so. Will Helmers has been a guy that has been on the downslide ever since the hot start, but Will Helmers clearly has a lot of experience this year. And then everybody else that could pitch has thrown, whether it's Fontenot or whether it's Ventmeyer or whether it's Garrett Edwards. But, hey, at this point, all hands on deck. It'll be fun.
I'll quote Paul Maneri. Let it rip. Put whoever you got to put out there in the battle box on the mound. Let it rip right there. Let it rip and go win the game. And then you got a whole week to regroup before you roll up to Knoxville. Wow. So, Coach, I'm stealing your quote from last Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was. Let it rip. Go have some fun and win a baseball game.
He's Tommy